Now, as many have been seeing, and especially when we've been checking out the news, especially with this fallout over Donald Trump and Elon Musk, this is one of those updates that actually leads towards my main discussion. And I'll get into that a little bit, but essentially, what I just wanted to focus on is that what people are actually missing out as far as this whole beef between Trump and Elon Musk and all that's been happening. Now, of course, South Africans, of course, were up in arms, and many suspected that it was Elon Musk getting into Donald Trump's ear, into as far as getting into this whole identifying whether there's white genocide here in the South Africa or not, and everything. But essentially, they were trying to, and what I was always pushing back against was the fact that it seems like they were instituting a state of emergency in a country, in somebody else's country, instead of fixing the whole issues that are actually concerning their domestic affairs. And of course, Donald Trump had a rude awakening, because during his campaign and everything, there were things that you were saying about the state of Colorado, and especially in it's the district of Aurora. I'm not too sure if it's a town or a county, but essentially it can be both if you know your Americas and how it's pretty much laid out in terms of the city planning and the zoning. That the whole South American drug cartel was pretty much running the outer parts of Denver specifically, and of course it would affect the whole inner city, so to speak. And then there was a pro-Israeli sort of protest or something that was happening, and then some illegal immigrant came in with a flamethrower and started setting people ablaze and injured a few people with these flamethrower, just incinerating people, everyone around there. And I think it was about 8 people that were harmed in this. And it was a matter of, Donald Trump was now reminded that, hang on, I must take care of this whole local terrorism that has pretty much penetrated and has found itself deeply embedded inside the communities. Now, especially if you consider that Colorado is known as a deep blue state, or a democratic stronghold, it does actually say a lot, especially when you consider the fact that if you look carefully and if you know your United States, once again, that it's normally these the democratic states that tend to have that high crime rate, especially those communities over there. And if you look at just outside the outskirts, especially in those states that are demarcated as blue, that you'll see that the more remote and rural it is, so to speak, the more Republican and conservative it tends to be. So that was the whole situation that develops out there, and their actual policing problems that they have out in the United States, particularly, like I was saying, in the urban cities and the whole inner cities, especially in the major metropolitans, that you'll see there's a big, of course, crime surge over there. And something that we, of course, have come akin to here in South Africa, sadly so, that we know of that. But it wasn't just about the fact that, we're looking at this whole situation where Elon Musk had been an advisor to Trump, especially concerning the whole issues around South Africa. But the main thing is, where does one actually draw the line between being a lobby interest or someone who's actually funding a political campaign, and then you getting involved into governmental affairs, and then trying to not only just make policies, but essentially trying to legislate or get laws passed in order to maintain the profitability of your business. And this is what's going on here. So at the heart of it, and I've always picked this up, and I did always feel that I don't understand what Trump and Elon Musk, apart from being billionaires technically on paper, right, have in common. Because Donald Trump was all about the fact that, listen, this policy, this Paris climate treaty agreement must just fall away, and he's not for all these electric vehicles and all that stuff. And he pretty much, anyone that follows these campaigns will always hear him saying that these things don't last long, and you can only drive from point A to B and not A to Z or Z, depending where you are from the world in terms of your English. And they're saying that, Trump was actually saying that these things are just not really effective. And again, they're hazardous to the environment still, because you can't exactly dispose of the batteries as you could with an actual fossil fuel driven car. So that was the one thing. And he was saying that, hang on, and people have now heard that he had been saying that no, he's okay with people having electric vehicles, but he always wanted people to have the choice. So that was the one thing about Donald Trump, that, people will think that he is very buyable and all that, but he's pretty much a very stand-up kind of person. When he sees something a certain way, he will pretty much stick to it and say, well, listen, if you're not showing me any sort of any way that is sort of trying to, I don't know, counteract my arguments with actual real logical points and facts, then I'm going to stick to what I know and the way I see it. So that's just the way he is. One of the reasons why I love him so, and I just have to say, and of course I've pretty much, people have now gathered that about me at this point in time, that, of course I've always loved Donald Trump. And that's one of the reasons why I like him so much. And because he just has a backbone. And now when you have a backbone and you're taking taking money from certain benefactors and lobby interest groups, they will then, of course, start turning on you. And that's exactly what Elon Musk did, because Elon Musk, and especially for getting his Tesla off the ground and everything, and why it was so popular, especially when the whole Paris Treaty and the whole Paris Climate Treaty Agreement, I keep saying that wrong, I can't remember exactly, but people know what I'm talking about, that whenever that was signed in and the whole environmental thing was passed in, that, it's all about sustainability and cars and all that, and in particular relation to my last show, that if you go with this agenda that it's all about this and this and this, it's always talking about one sort of demographic, or not one sort of demographic, but it's always linked to some sort of one ideology, which is the globalist agenda. So it's always pertaining to that sort of framework. And I guess it's also another idea for another show, or something I also need to uncover. And maybe I'll do that next after this one. But essentially, it's one of the reasons why Elon Musk has amassed so much. And of course, it's already come out that the subsidies that he has received from the government itself is the reason why he's a billionaire. Now, I'm not doing a deep dive into the man as per se, because I don't know, I just don't find him particularly appealing and everything. And what I just wanted to do is speak about his one component, which is SpaceX, and I will get into that a little bit as to how this thing is so popular, and of course why he'd be in the global agenda. But essentially, what I was always talking about is the role of those who are oligarchs and those who are always looking for monopolies, and people who are actually rich because of their relationship with the government, and people are giving them this statuses as entrepreneurs, and meaning that if the law wasn't swayed to their liking, we don't know if they've been able to scale up or get their businesses so profitable or so big in terms of their their global presence and their branding, if it wasn't for that. And this is now making me look at Elon Musk in that way. And of course, Donald Trump being no pushover in this regard is the main fallout and is the main reason and the main problem with South Africa. So tying it back, not South Africa, sorry, with Elon Musk, but tying it back into what's happening with South Africa and what happened there is, of course, the Starlink, that as to what Elon Musk wanted to get here as one of his other businesses into the South African market without going through the BEE requirements, hence the shaking up. And the one thing I said to a friend of mine is that, isn't it rather ironic that they say genocide, and as far as the definition of it, I'm not reading a textbook definition, they're saying it's not just about culling or killing off a certain genetic disposition or a certain phenotype or genotype, but essentially it's also the soft sort of persecution, meaning that you're making these laws and also this ill treatment or saying things that will push them out. But what's funny is this, is that if you really believed that South Africa is pushing out people, and especially in a country that has a lot of American businesses and interests here, why don't you just send the army and deploy the army over here and protect your interest? And of course, why contribute to the problem? Because when you're causing this white flight, meaning that the scare tactic, and of course, people just fleeing the South Africa because of potential genocide, why plant that there and then try to depopulate us of our precious white people? I'm just saying, why do that? So yeah, there is of course a lot of disingenuous things that I'm just pointing out here and just stating over here, but effectively that is the problem. So it was whole political maneuvering and trying to get South Africa to kowtow to Elon Musk's business ideas, because as you can see, and what it is about the man is that quite clearly in the USA he is used to getting his way, especially just paying off these kickbacks and paying towards people's campaigns and everything, and especially that he was a supporter of the Democrats. And even his own father says he hated Trump. He absolutely detested him, so much so that he actually stopped talking to his father over the fact that his father likes Trump. And he was like, oh, I don't know why you support that idiot, wah, 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 wah. Then all of a sudden, I think he got a little bit of issues from the Democrats camp, and then he turned to Trump. And then, as you know, he then became a MAGA supporter, which is quite weird, with that whole flip-flopping. And if you notice what Donald Trump said, and he didn't go into it in detail, he just said, I helped Elon Musk, and I helped him a lot, end quote. That's exactly his words, verbatim. I mean, okay, let me not say verbatim. I may have chopped it up a bit, but it's more or less on that line that he says, I helped Elon Musk and I helped him a lot. I helped Elon. I helped him a lot. So what is he alluding to, and what is he talking about? Is there something more of these subsidies? Is there something more that needs to come out? Because Elon Musk said something about him being in the Epstein files, as in Donald Trump being implicated in that. And I'm saying, if the man has been persecuted over his own his own company performances, and then they're saying that he was laundering money and all sorts of things, and people are just reaching in terms of those court cases out in New York, which is something that's still going to come out, and something that I've been talking about as far as the Trump estate. That was actually a prophecy God had showed me, right? Which is, it had to do with that and what's happening in the dealings in New York, and him being able to get the popular vote out in New York City, as he is from there. That there is something, of course, that they would have worked towards getting him pinned on if he was implicated in the Epstein files. Quite surely that would have been long been thrown out there. Definitely, with everything that has been out there. But, that's neither here nor there at this particular point in time. What I'm just saying is that this is why that as far as what South Africa is going through, as far as the political change and everything, that this whole lobby interest actually dictating as to how a country is governed, especially these quote unquote these cartels or families or billionaires, are the ones controlling the whole electorate and swaying the narratives depending on what's happening in order to suit their business demands, and the people are actually being put away from it. But God is going to be the one to put back everything in his glory and the way he sees it. And this is not something that's going to be narrated by man. No, it's narrated by God himself through, of course, someone like me, for example. I'm just saying there not to put myself on any pedestal, but essentially there's a lot of things that clearly are happening, and he has communicated it to certain people, and especially I can only talk about my country. Of course, I've been given revelations in other countries, but there are things in the working as far as in the spirit that God is putting an end to the system of man. And it is quite tantamount, and why I'm speaking about this whole thing, about this whole space technology and everything, that Elon Musk's business interest that he probably did not even start. He just was the right man at the right time to basically be the head of, or to be the face of, I should say, of those particular projects that's been happening for a while. And this is going to bring me to my next subject and my next update. So people, if you are on YouTube and everything, please click on the description box to see exactly what I'm talking about and why I'm actually delving into this topic, and people need to understand the truth behind certain things. And I'll get to that in just a second.